We can't afford to have a variance in our quality because we live online and we're digitally native. If something's wrong with a watch, we're gonna find out very, very quickly. Most times in a pretty rude way too. LA is a really big cultural hub. Being in LA, I get to be in a city that's always exciting. The energy here is insane. The talent here is insanely high. Being around all of that makes for a really good melting pot of ideas, perspectives. All of those things inform how we run our business, how we design our products.
Access to everything. You don't get that in a lot of cities in America. Whatever I want, whatever I need, I'll be able to find it in LA, and that's influenced a lot of how I see things, how I approach things, and I love it.
I found it really cool how you could start a watch company and like actually make a living designing and selling watches. It was just like the concept of it was just really cool. We're very experimental. Whether that's materials experimentation or novel mechanisms. We're always trying to solve a problem that the industry has. And as a result, we actually have some licensing deals with other brands as well. And I think that keeps us relevant, right? The fact that we're sort of integral to the whole industry, not just as our own watch brand. We knew that we wanted to do sport watches, and that's what we also wore, right? Even pre-Nodus, all the watches we had were 200-meter water resistance, dive watches, pilot watches, very function forward.
I remember our second year in business, we developed 3 whole new models. Or was it third year? Within the first 3 years, we had...
No, it was second year, 2018.
We developed 3 new models. The release of those 3 models, that kind of cemented us in the industry as a serious brand wanting to do cool things. The landscape back then was very different than what it currently is. Microbrands were still quite young. There were a good amount of them, but there was still a lot of enthusiasm and really grassroots support for these types of brands through forums, through word of mouth. And we really got away with the timing of things back in the day. And nowadays, because competition is so fierce, everyone's so polished, everyone's so professional, I don't think we could get away with it anymore.
If we were just starting, yeah.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. I definitely never expected to be an entrepreneur, let alone an entrepreneur with a business that means a lot to people. And now it's definitely bigger than the Wes and Cullen show. You know, I think the first few years it was definitely Nodus was attached to the two of us, but now we have a team that works on all of our product and our marketing, and like it's a real operation now.
It's a crazy feeling, especially because I'm the one who's more behind the scenes. Wes is used to the adulation and the fame and the spotlight. I'm very grateful for it, and it just makes me want to work harder and do better things and cooler things.
I grew up all over the world. My parents, they moved around a lot when I was a kid. I lived in Philly, New York, Singapore, Beijing, Hong Kong, Boston, and now LA. It was kind of like every 5 to 7 years I would hop off to a new spot. LA is the longest I've been anywhere, so this is home, or at least the closest thing I have to it now.
I was born in Austin, Texas. I moved around to, Orange County for a bit, and then I moved to Beijing. That's where I met Wes. After Beijing, I went to LA for college, and I was there for 13 years, and it's a place I call home. It's also the longest I've ever been anywhere. We met in middle school
actually, yeah.
And we bonded over music, guitar.
We started a band like the week we met.
Yeah.
In 7th grade.
7th grade, yeah.
A lot of like blues rock, Aerosmith, Black Crowes type of music.
Grunge as well.
Some grunge, yeah.
Yeah.
For both of us, actually, it was during college. After getting into college, we both got into watches without telling each other. Over probably a period of like 6 months, we became super obsessed with mechanical watches. It was like pulling the layers back from an onion.
One day he sent a photo of the first watch that he got. I think it was
This is a department store Tissot.
a Tissot
watch,
quartz
yeah.
watch, right? Was it
Yeah.
quartz?
Yeah.
And then the first watch I got was also a department store. The brand is called Titus. I got it because my middle name is Titus. We're both wearing these watches, and we didn't know that we would fall so hard into them.
When we started our brand, I think one of the things that really annoyed me a lot, was that a lot of innovation in the watch industry was about how much more complicated can we make this watch? You know, how much more power can we put in this watch? As a matter of like practical daily use, I think that was kind of ignored for a long time. So when we started designing watches, we always thought from a human-centric, daily applicable, like practical solutions, always about the ergonomics of a watch case and bracelet. The form factor is so much more important than I think brands paid attention to. That was really the main thing that we focused on, keeping the designs clean and efficient.
Anyone can make small batches. It's just, do you want to invest the capital into it? For us, we think it's more valuable to make small quantities just to test it out, regardless of what the development cost is, because we ourselves are curious of what the outcome's going to be. You'll see in this industry that there are several what we call catalog clasps. You know, a mechanism or a type of clasp that's available to everyone to use from certain suppliers. Because a lot of brands use the same suppliers, they all have access to the same product. We could have easily done that with our micro adjustment clasp, but instead we chose to go the hard way and develop our own. And that's why you won't see anyone else using our clasp. They're using something else.
Well, unless we license it to
Exactly,
yeah.
unless we license our design to other brands.
Over time, we started to experiment with different novel mechanisms that we created. The extension mechanism in our clasp or our bezel mechanism. Also doing cool things with coatings. We're one of the first brands to do Cerakote, but powderized ceramic. Not used a lot in watches, but used often in like, you know, firearms and automotive world.
For the Sector Deep, we intentionally designed the case to be small and the bezel to be large. So that would make it really easy to grip the bezel when you're actually using it for diving. It's very unconventional to see those proportions in watches. You don't ever see a bezel that's 4 millimeters larger than the case. We didn't do it for an aesthetic reason. We did it for a function-first reason that just so happened to look good at the same time. That's been one of our most popular watches. One of our models is called the Obscura. It's a watch for film photographers that has an exposure gauge complication to set your exposure. Very novel to the market, very cutting edge. And we've had customers who bought that watch who don't even know a thing about film photography. They just like the idea that, hey, this is something cool and something new. And they like that on their wrist. I think for someone like Matt Farah, he made it super easy for us because he knew exactly what he wanted and made it very clear. I want this, this, this in a watch because I can't find this, this, this in a watch. We made that come true for him, and it was really, really successful.
Yeah, we need to develop a bit of a reputation for making really good watches before we can start experimenting and doing new stuff.
Doing the new stuff keeps us excited. We've been doing this for 8 years now, and 8 years of just making the same watch can get a bit stale. So just thinking about new ideas and solving problems keeps us motivated to do what we do. We love what we do. I don't think there's a tangible trait that you can just call out and be like, that's a Nodus. It's something that's more, you know, you can't put your hands on it. You can't really describe it, but it's there. And that's something that I've struggled to think of, like, what is it that people see? It's the function-forward design approach that kind of ties it all together. But again, it's hard to say what exactly that is just from an aesthetic point of view.
I want them to feel like they're at the cutting edge of where the industry is going. We try our best to make things ahead of the curve. So I think if someone wears our watch itself is something that I want them to feel like, oh, this is experimental. This is like something that hasn't been done before. I think a lot about how do I make an impact on the industry, make the industry better in terms of more transparent, better in terms of taking brands like ours more seriously as opposed to just being another mom and pop type of outfit. How do we raise the tide for all of our little ships to come together, work together in a more cohesive, collaborative way?
The past few years, we've seen a customer demographic shift from larger brands trickling down to the smaller independent brands like us. It's nice knowing that we're making an impact on the industry.
The only rule that our company has is never say never. We love seeing people wear it to weddings, parties, big milestone events. When these things happen, that watch is a lot more than just a time-telling machine. It ends up becoming a vessel for a very strong, important memory. And that makes it become a keeper. Every time people look at that watch that was there in that important moment, they're going to remember that moment. And that's kind of the point of things that last this long. When it comes to a watch company, the biggest watch companies were at important moments in history. The Speedmaster, it went to the moon. The Submariner, it was in countless number of world wars. It'd be really cool to have our watch be at a turning point in history.
There's no ultimate picture I want to paint. It's more about the process and the journey. Once that runs out, I think that's when the time stops. And that's when the canvas is painted.
I get to work with my best friend on really cool things.
Yeah.
In a way, Nodus was just us getting the band back together, solve more problems, continue selling more watches. I'm living the life.